Well, good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
As I wrote in the Thought for the Week, the Thought for the Week, which we read just a little bit ago, these are my seed thoughts. These are the things that I am thinking about that I like to base my talk on. And yet, during this past week, different events happened that I became aware of that I wanted to add some additional information. So I'll get down to my topic this morning in a little bit, but I first wanted to share something. As I was meditating earlier this week, I was in a consternation. I was in angst because of what was going on in our country, the storming of our Capitol, and all of these things that were in the news. And I heard the voice say, pick up that Joel Goldstein book that you were given by the publishers and read it. And the name of it is called The Government of Eden. And I wanted to, and I just started it, but I wanted to share with you some things that were in the first chapter that I just thought were so appropriate and poignant for what we are living today. This was written many, many years ago. The first of it starts with an invitation. It says, every year will be the result of what we make of it, the result of something that we put into operation this minute. The kind of year that we are to experience must be started now, in this moment, by an act of decision, and each one must make that decision for himself. What is that decision that we're going to make for ourselves in this coming year? I want to share with you some of the details that he had in this book in the first chapter. If you allow the it just seems like it's so totally poignant for today. It's just almost spooky. If you allow the mesmerism of the press, of newspapers, of fanaticism, or whatever in the political field to sway your minds, it won't be too long until the freedom which has been guaranteed you will be found missing. Benjamin Franklin did say, when he turned over this document of freedom to the United States, "You have been given your freedom, but I wonder, will you be able to hold on to it?" This nation was not founded on men, but by men. It was founded on principles of freedom, equality, justice, and the only activity of the Christ has enabled this nation to go through nearly 2 centuries standing firmly for these principles. In government as in religion, the men, the leaders, will come and they will go. But when nations or religions are founded on principles, the nations and religions will continue forever. Freedom is a condition of the soul. Freedom cannot be given to a nation or a race of people. Freedom must first be realized in individual being. Our freedom must first take place in our consciousness. It is the consciousness of God that makes us free. By not consciously taking hold of our own lives and opening ourselves to God government, we leave ourselves to the government of this world. That means we accept ourselves as a statistic. We unconsciously or subconsciously accept anything that is blowing around in the air. If a newspaper headline tells a coming epidemic, then so many prepare unconsciously for it. Each individual is an antenna receiving whatever is being broadcast of the world's fears. The three-dimensional man is ignorant of the truth that there is another realm of consciousness, a more glorious life, not lived by might or by power. Right now, I acknowledge that this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will give thanks, and I will surrender myself to God. Unquote. How many years ago that was written, and how poignant is it today? Amazing, isn't it? Are we to come to succumb, I should say, to what's blowing around in the wind? What are we putting our antennas up for? What are we tuning into? This nation was founded by men on the principle of divine providence. Our forefathers developed and wrote this document of freedom based on the fact that there is one power and presence, that God is in charge. But we have to recognize that individually. Each of us, as that individualized expression of this one power and presence, need to go within and take back our personal freedom. We're not going to get it from the government. We're not going to get it from anything outside ourselves. We need to get it from the principle that it started from. I know for me, that's one of my favorite scriptures is, "This is the day the Lord has made, and I shall rejoice and be glad in it." This is the day the Lord has made. We didn't make it. I didn't make it. You didn't make it. When we acknowledge that the Lord has made this and are joyous about it, wouldn't it behoove us to sit and ask, how would you, Lord God, Christ within, whatever you want to call it, how would you like me to direct my day? Wouldn't it be lovely if we would stop and ask the infinite how it wants to live our lives? Our topic this morning is life is always moving forward. Life is always revealing more of itself than it ever has before. And yet we are always living in the eternal now. We all have habits. Some of the habits support us. Some habits don't support us. The circuitry of our brain gets patterns. As we repeatedly have the same thoughts, the same actions, these circuits in our brains get hardwired in that direction. I mean, that's just been proven. That's physiology. That's what happens in our brains. Sometimes we could talk about getting into a rut. Well, meditation restructures the course of the patterns in the brain. That's been known, that's scientifically proven. And so when we go into this meditative state, letting go of what is on the external and move toward the internal, move toward the infinite spirit that is within each of us, we are going to be opening up to some change. We're going to be opening up to newness, to something different. Last week when you were here, we went through, and I've got some more with me if you didn't get a chance to. I've got some of the more of the papers that are the 12 qualities of God. And we chose which one or two, we wanted to emulate in this coming year. And, I'm sure if you weren't aware of it, the qualities are, peace and joy and love and order and harmony, abundance, and there's more. There's 12 of them altogether. But the idea is that when we select it, what we want to do is to go into that meditative state, to sit with it quietly, and then get the feeling of what love is. To get the feeling of what joy is. That's how we commune, and that's how we practice the presence, is by bringing up that feeling. So for me, I chose 3 of them, but one of them I carried over from last year. It wouldn't go away. It was still there, is unity. And so one of the practices that I do, because I try to walk every day, I really like to get outside and get a walk. And so for me, the technique or the way that I bring that unity into my life is that I look at, whenever I'm walking, if I look at a tree, I look at a rock, I look at the sidewalk, I acknowledge that I am one with you. That you are me, I am you. that this one universal oneness is all there is. And it helps me expand. It helps me to know that there is nothing outside of God, nothing outside this pristine being, no matter what it looks like, no matter what the appearance of it is. Oh, my pages like to stick together this morning. You know what it is? My fingers are so dry, that's what it is. When I go into meditation, and one of the other qualities that I chose was love. And I like to go into meditation and ask, what is that feeling of love? And ask, how does that love want to direct me this day? What would love do? That's one of the reasons why I chose the song that we listened to this morning with Rita Harrington. I love that song, that love, it's everywhere. Love takes us to cross the harbor to the other side, always. I was interesting because I didn't choose order this year. Many years I have, but I didn't choose order. And yet yesterday I decided that I was going to put away Christmas. Now, if you've been to my home, Christmas is everywhere. Someone said there's not a surface or a spot where Christmas is not. And so yesterday I decided to put away Christmas. And I started at 11 o'clock. I worked for 5 hours. And I still have 2 small villages to put away and the tree. I didn't get the tree down. You're thinking, what did she do all that time? Well, I ended up recognizing that I wanted to do it in an orderly way. And I wanted to, some of the things I cleaned out, I got rid of some stuff that I never used. I haven't used that in 3 years. Why am I keeping it? So, again, contribution for our rummage sale coming up next month. And then I decided, I have tablecloths, to get my tablecloths, Christmas tablecloths out. And I've got to organize my tablecloths. So what happened is that I guess order is coming out anyway. I didn't consciously ask for it, but it feels so good because when you follow that direction that you're being given in the moment, not worrying about, oh, I should be doing something else. Oh, this is going to take too much time. Oh, this isn't right. When we stop and we just follow the direction that is being given to us at that moment, how much more clear, how much more gratifying, how much more peaceful life is. We are always moving forward. Life is always moving forward. Letting go of the past is one of the most important things that we can do, especially when we're talking about this new year. It's a new year. How can we let go of that old? If you want to, take home the program again and reread what Eileen Cady said about the past and the thought for the week and letting it go. I also, though, I did take a little bit of time to do other things. I sat down and I watched the program on PBS that Deepak Chopra was giving on his latest book called Mega Human is the name of the book. It was fabulous. It was a really good program. Of course, they had, the ads. It was supposed to be those ones where, you get money to them. So there was a good portion of it that, I muted. But it's very interesting information. He talked about the way the brain is made and how it does get restructured when we meditate. And it said that just 1/2 hour a day for 2 weeks of meditation makes an improvement, a tremendous improvement in the brain. 1/2 hour for a 2-week period of time makes a tremendous improvement in the brain, because we create habits, and it's not easy to create a new constructive habit. It can be easy to create a habit that you really don't want to keep, but it gave they had different people talking, and it said, they gave the example of kids in winter when they get their toboggan out for the first time. and they want to go down the slope. And and say if there's a whole group of kids doing it. Well, the first group of kids that have their first toboggan that goes down the hill, what happens? It's not easy. It's because they're plowing through just this pure snow. And then after the fourth or fifth or sixth one, it gets easier, gets easier, gets easier. Until finally, the 10th or 12th one's like, woo, we're flying down this hill. That's the way it is when we meditate on a basis that is an intentional one. We know it's not easy to meditate. I understand that. People say that all the time. I don't have time. It's not easy. I don't know how to do it. But if you just sit down and give yourself the opportunity to create a habit of 1/2 hour, doing it for 2 weeks straight, what happens is you won't have to gear yourself up to get it done. It'll become easier and easier, and what will happen is that it'll become longer. You'll want to sit in that stillness, in that silence, so that you can hear and be available for what the infinite, this spirit, this power that we are, has to say to us. I keep a little journal next to me with a pen, because inevitably there will be things that come up that I want to capture, and I don't want to have to try to remember it. So if I put it down, then I can let it go. And so I would suggest that. I came across, I'm cleaning up my desk. I came across something on my desk that I hadn't seen in quite a long while, and I wanted to share that with you today. It's a poem that was written in 1982 by Rita and Noel McInnes, and it's entitled Flow. Be as water is, without friction. Flow around the edges of those within your path. Surround within your ever-moving depths those who come to rest there. Enfold them, while never for a moment holding on. Accept whatever distance others are moved within your flow. Be with them gently as far as they allow your strength to take them. And fill your own being the remaining space with when they are left behind. When dropping down life's rapids, froth and bubble into fragments if you must, knowing that the one of you now, many, will just as many times be one again. And when you're gone as far as you can go, quietly await your next beginning. I love the feeling, the energy, the essence of that poem that tells us just to flow, just to be, just to allow whatever's happening. I wanted to share with you something from Joel Goldsmith. The love of God, realized in silence and in secrecy, evidences itself in deeds of loving kindness. In God's love, there is no criticism, no judgment, and no condemnation. In God's love, there are no yesterdays. God's love is flowing now. It cannot withhold itself, nor can it give itself. God's love is a state of is, a state of being. And through the meditation and contemplation of God, this love of God permeates our consciousness. We are spiritual beings living on this planet for this infinitesimal little teeny bit of time and space. But God, the Almighty, has placed us here by its directive. We are here from its will, for its will. It is changeless. That's what we are. The eternal, the inside, the spirit of us is changeless. When we tap into that, we recognize that wherever I am, God is, and all is well. So get in touch with that higher power. Let it lead you to greener pastures. It surely will. You are love, and you are loved. Namaste.